Okay, so welcome back to a special edition of Burnt Rubber Racing Network for Championship Weekend here capping off. I'm Trey Farley, and with me as always is Chris Prince. Chris, how are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Although, the racing tonight it was whatever, but we'll get to that in a second. First, let's talk about the Xfinity race last night. Obviously, Tyler Reddick, your champion, but what did you think of the race?
Overall, I thought it was good. There was a lot of good racing. I've been a fan of the Xfinity cars all year, though. I've watched two seriously good races in person at Bristol and Daytona with those cars, and then it seems like pretty much all the track races I've watched on TV have been good too. So I've been a big fan of that. So I thought it was a good race overall. I kind of in my Xfinity article said Tyler was going to win, so I kind of seen that happening.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you also said that there in our video there Friday night. I think you said the same thing, so I'll give you credit there. And obviously, I was off. I said Christopher Bell was going to dominate, win the whole damn thing, and what did he end up fourth?
Yep, fourth.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but Austin Hill there getting another win. Obviously eliminated the week before in Phoenix, but guess it goes to show that he does deserve that championship tier equipment there in the Truck Series.
Yeah, that was an interesting race. A lot of backlash for that. Matt Crafton winning after not hasn't even won a race since 2017. But hey, man, you played the system, you win the championship.
It's a points game. Yes, winning guarantees you advancement, but winning does not guarantee you a championship necessarily because it's best finish when it comes down to those final four, and Crafton just happened to be the lead guy out of those four. I mean, that's how it's designed. So I don't know why. I mean, I can see why people have an issue with it, but me personally, I think it's just how it is. I mean, the system may be flawed, but obviously it works in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it works for him. I mean, you can say what you want, but he was consistent enough to make it to the final four and won a championship off consistency. So
So that's the truck race, but the Xfinity race, let's get back to that real quick. We kind of got off topic there, but the Xfinity race, I thought that was kind of reminiscent of the glory days of NASCAR, and I mean that relative to our age, those early 2000s Gen 4 cars. That
yeah.
racing was very similar to that. I mean, it seemed like people could pass a lot easier. There was multi-groove racing. It was good racing, and I don't understand quite how that didn't translate to the Cup race this afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could see they had runs a lot. They got runs a lot quicker and a lot easier in those Xfinity cars than they did today in this Cup cars. I mean, you could see the runs develop, but it was a lot more spread out racing, it seemed like.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of ground being made up either. I mean, there at the end, Truex Jr. was what, like 9 seconds, and he got down to seven, and I think maybe by the end of the race he had it down to 4 or 5 seconds
Yeah, I mean
over a
that's
50 lap span.
yeah, it took 50 laps for him to get that far. So I mean, I guess I can see in a way why there's people petitioning for him to take it to ISM next year, but I guess we'll see because that race really wasn't even all that exciting other than restarts if you think about it.
Yeah, it was kind of the same deal. One guy gets up there and runs away with it, but they've talked about introducing that short track package. I saw that there over the weekend as well. I think that would be interesting to end the year on a short track, and I know people refer to ISM as a short track, but that's not at all what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, you're talking something a little less than a 3/4 mile track, something along the lines of Bristol, Martinsville. I know
Yeah,
what you
put
mean.
Martinsville up. I mean, farther down the season, just bump it down a couple races, make it the championship, because then you have true physical racing. I mean, a champion will be decided by everything possible. It
Yeah,
takes a lot of those variables out of it with short track racing. So I'd like to see it, start on a big track like Daytona. I love the Daytona 500 to start off the year. But yeah, I mean, Bristol or Martinsville, I think would be a better finishing race because you're going to get a better product, especially if they get that package right for the short tracks.
yeah, it'll be crazy. I read something today before the race. The Gen 7 car should be the Xfinity car from this year.
I would agree. I mean, the Xfinity cars have looked good all year. It's been obviously there's been some domination from Custer, Reddick, and Bell, but Briscoe's always been up front there, and there's been
Yep.
several others competing on. I mean, all the way throughout the year. So I think those cars are a little closer to what the fans are wanting, and I hope NASCAR kind of takes note of that because the Cup cars this year were disappointing on most tracks. I mean, the road courses were interesting, but road courses are always interesting, and the same thing with super speedways.
Yeah, road courses, I believe, come more. I mean, you have to have a good car set up, but I think it comes down to a good driver a lot too at a road course. I mean, you really get to see your equipment's a lot more leveled out. You've seen people like Matt DiBenedetto run top tens easily at the road course races this year. So, I mean, it's one of those things where they're going to have to do something. I don't think it's going to be next year, but when Gen 7 cars come out, it'll be interesting to see what changes they make.
Yeah. And touching here on the big story tonight, Joe Gibbs Racing obviously wins the championship. They had a 75% chance, but
Yeah,
also getting that 19th win to break the record for most wins by a team in a season after losing JD before the start of the season, starting it off with the Daytona 500 win and maintaining that consistency throughout the year. I mean, against unsurmountable odds.
yeah, crazy. I mean, you like you said, 75% chance. You knew one of them was going to walk away with it. I mean, the odds were not in Harvick's favor. I mean, he could have won it. We seen Crafton do it Friday night, but I mean, I guess Kyle Busch at the end, it was his. I mean, championship wise, I mean, the crew chief made the right call. The car was rolling the way he wanted it to.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a huge Kyle Busch fan. Like I've said before, he's growing on me. I
Yeah,
think I like this championship a little more than the 2015 race. The only thing I have against obviously this year's championship for him is the race itself kind of sucked.
yeah,
But Kyle Busch to go on what like a 17 or 18 race losing streak, I don't remember what it ended up being, and that's a big one for him. Like that's crazy to consider someone only going half a season without a win is considered a down year and still wins
right.
a championship.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, so that's about all for championship weekend. Before we wrap up here, though, Chris, I want to do something real crazy here.
All right.
2020 NASCAR Cup champion, who is it?
I'm going to go a young guy because we've seen the veterans dominate. And I'm going to say,
Don't say Chase Elliott. Come on.
nope, I'm going to say Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson. I like that pick.
I'm just gonna go off the wall, younger guy. I mean, we've seen Logano doing. He's still technically a younger guy. I don't know why he's not classified in that younger generation movement, but I mean, I guess it's because he's been in the sport since he's been 18, 19. So in the big series, but I think they're gonna fix something next year, and they're gonna come out and contend. And if they get to the championship four at Homestead, I think they can do it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, obviously with Larson's placement this year at Phoenix, next year ending that race, it's not a big difference between Homestead and there for him in terms of how he
Yeah.
races. I'm gonna go in a little different direction here, just because you mentioned Logano. Other Penske equipment there, I'm gonna have to say Ryan Blaney is probably going to be in the championship for next year. We saw him finish what third tonight, third or fourth.
Yeah, and he had a chance on that restart last week at Phoenix. So, I mean, he ran good there near the end. With that being the final race, like you said, it could be interesting for sure.
Yeah, and Larson was right up there with him. So those were the two highest non-playoff drivers, two of the guys that performed what Phoenix last year, but didn't, or excuse me, last week, but didn't advance, are up there. So I think those are good picks on your and mine. And I think that's one of the first times we'll agree on something like that. But we'll have to wait till we kick off next year to really get into those championship predictions. But for right now, that's going to do it for our NASCAR season coverage. Stay tuned for what we're going to cover over here in the off season. We've talked about some dirt and several other things. So, Chris, you got anything you want to add on here?
No, man, I'm good. I guess we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. I'll see you then.
All right, see you, man.